Thank you for joining us this week on Up in the Air. I'm Hunter Williams.
And I'm Mike Kwasnick.
Now, you may have noticed Mike was not here last week. That's because he was competing at the Big Ten Diving and Swimming Championships. Mike, how'd you do?
I did well, actually. I had a lot of best times in the event, and I actually finaled on Friday as well in the 100 breaststroke.
Wow, very impressive. Not only talented in front of the camera, but a very athletic team member. Very, very nice. Congratulations, Mike.
Thanks, Hunter.
Well, now that we have Mike back in the studio, I guess we'll get right into things. Here's the latest news on the Weather Enterprise and your latest climate information. Here's Update in the Air.
On Sunday, February 28th, a global group of scientists started a study that is intended to determine mankind's effect on the climate. The study is supposed to be completed in 2019, and it is intended to figure out a number of aspects of the climate. Some examples include biodiversity research and something called ecosystem services, which tries to put a value on how important specific elements of the environment are to the Earth. The Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, was created in 2012 to try and determine how the Earth climate changes with respect to human activities. IPBES is intended to give governments information on how the climate works. The first study released by IPBES was on pollination and showed that bees, bats, and butterflies were losing numbers. Those animals are important for food production worldwide, which is valued at $577 billion per year.
When you think about weather observing stations, you more than likely do not think of bicycles. That is, unless your name is Nicholas Rashkovich. This University of Buffalo student designed and built the first ever research-grade bicycle-based weather station. The purpose of this unique observation site is to collect microclimate data, including information such as solar radiation, sky view, surface temperatures, as well as air temperature. According to Rashkovich, airport weather stations and satellite data are great for estimating temperatures in cities, but smaller scale data is needed to help planning at neighborhood levels. The information gathered by the bike helps to explain things like tree cover and how they contribute into ground and air temperatures in different neighborhoods within an urban area. Rashkovich took 12 rides during the summer of 2012 during the hottest parts of the day, and more recently had his findings published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health.
China has dropped its use of coal by 3.7% from 2014 to 15, and it looks like that trend will continue in the future. The Chinese government is planning to lay off roughly 1.8 million coal and steel workers because the country is looking for other options for energy. Wind power in China was up 33.5% from 2014 to 15, and solar power has also risen greatly, 74% in the same time period. China is still the world's largest consumer of coal, about 3 times that in the United States, and many are linking the coal cutbacks to the Paris Climate Agreement, where China pledged to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions starting in 2030.
An interesting study out of the University of Rhode Island is providing a new perspective on what exactly makes people search the internet for information on climate change. The study utilized data from Google Trends dating from January 2004 to May 2013 and searched for numerous keywords pertaining to climate change and then matched these occurrences to information from local weather stations. The study found expectedly that search activity increased when extreme heat was felt in the summer, when more rain fell over extended periods of time, and when there were fewer cold snaps during the winter. However, on a more surprising note, the study also found that search activity increased when average winter and spring temperatures dropped. The study also broke down the differences in searches between varying political and educational backgrounds, finding that less educated areas search more during periods of extreme weather, while more educated communities search during changes in average temperatures.
Carbon tetrachloride, CCl4, is a chemical that was used for cleaning a long time ago. However, it is known that it breaks down ozone in the stratosphere. Because of that, CCl4 is no longer allowed to be put into cleaning solutions, yet it is still being released into the atmosphere in the United States. The main reason is that this chemical is necessary in producing other types of chemicals that are still used, such as Teflon and polyvinyl chloride, also known as PVC. A recent study has found that the decline of CCl4 in the atmosphere is much slower than what was expected. The study also found that the actual emissions of CCl4 are up to 30 to 100 times higher than reported. This may be the cause of the consistent corruptor of the ozone.
A new study is providing insight into the effects that excess carbon dioxide has on coral reef growth. As a part of this study, manipulated seawater chemistry was used to determine that ocean acidification is already slowing coral reef growth. According to the study, coral reefs are particularly vulnerable to the ocean acidification process because reef architecture is built by the accretion of calcium carbonate, which becomes increasingly difficult as acid concentrations in seawater increases. The study team manipulated the alkalinity of seawater over a reef flat off of Australia's One Tree Island in the southern Great Barrier Reef by bringing the reef's pH closer to pre-industrial revolution estimates. Under these circumstances, the team found that calcification rates were higher than they are today. Up in the Air will be back in a moment with more. Thanks for tuning back in.
We're happy to announce we have some brand new features on the show this week.
That's right. Members of the Meteo 460 class here at Penn State now have features, and we'll be showing these over the next couple of weeks. This feature is detailing soybean and natural gas commodities. Enjoy.
Thanks for having us. My name is Kat Cobelt, and I'm bringing you this week's commodity update along with Carrie Mendiak and Brian Kennedy. First, I'll start out with a natural gas update. Carrie will follow some information about soybeans, and Brian will wrap it up with a close look at this year's El Nino and what it means for future weather. On January 11, 2016, the price of the June future was $2.55. Over the course of a little over a month, the price of the June future on February 16, 2016 was $2.12. This is the lowest the future price has been in over a year. So what are the causes of this? Well, it is not only the above average temperatures that are driving the cost down. We have seen increased supply and decreased demand. The amount of natural gas in storage right now is very significant. This winter has been one for the books as well. These cold bursts last for a few days, bring some snow, and a warm front comes through and shoots the temperatures back up to where it was. So the underlying question is February 17th the low point for prices? Have we hit rock bottom? What has to happen for the prices to increase? As we ponder this, here is Carrie with your soybean update.
Thanks, Kat. Soybean meal futures have seen a decline in price since the middle of October last year, which is the planting season in Brazil and Argentina. Currently, we are in between the pod filling stage and the harvest stage. Prices have continued to fall due to the better than expected soybean yields. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates, or WASDE, report that came out on February 9th stated that the soybean production in Argentina is up 1.5 million tons to 58.5 million. The weather has remained favorable for soybean growth, which is a factor in the increased production. Soybean production in Brazil remains unchanged from January at 100 million tons. The market saw an increase in May soybean meal futures on Tuesday, largely due to a delay in Brazil's shipments. Storms reportedly caused this delay. This may force China to import soybeans from the United States, which is an unattractive option due to the recent strengthening of the US dollar. The market's highest point on Tuesday was 269.2, which is the highest it has been in a week and a half. Now here's Brian with an in-depth look at El Nino.
ENSO stands for the El Nino Southern Oscillation, and it's a climate phenomena that is characterized by warmer than normal sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific. El Nino's usual impacts on North and South American weather come in the form of an increase in both average temperature and precipitation. This year's El Nino ranks second only to the event of 97-98 as far as strength and its impacts. The Climate Prediction Center, or CPC, is forecasting an end to the El Nino event, and we're looking forward to a transition into La Nina. La Nina is the flip side of the ENSO phenomena. This is often characterized by colder than normal sea surface temperatures in that same eastern Pacific basin. The weather effects of this climate oscillation usually take on the form of hotter and drier spells in both North and South America. Climate scientists use ENSO, along with other climate oscillations in the Atlantic and Pacific, in order to forecast more accurately the weather and the weather averages in the next coming months. Right now, the CPC is forecasting a late spring, early summer transition period before entering the La Nina. One way that this information is important is in the soybean markets. For example, soybean farmers and commodities traders would like to actually see some La Nina effects, as this may help bump up the sagging soybean prices. Unfortunately, the way it looks right now, the heat waves and possible droughts that La Nina may bring are forecast to hold off until at least September. The May, June, July forecast by CPC look good for natural gas, as cooling degree days may be larger during this period, but there really is no hint of prolonged drought or heat waves in the main soybean areas of the Midwest and Upper Plains states. La Nina should be going strong by next fall and winter though, and that would be good news for soybean traders, as this could have a diminishing effect on the ever-growing South American harvests.
For Up in the Air, I'm Kat Cobell.
I'm Carrie Mindiak.
Now I'm Brian Kennedy.
Thanks for tuning back in. We now have Casey Herman standing by at the climate wall.
Casey, we're getting into parts of late February. What's the snow cover looking like right now?
That's right, Hunter. As we look at the current snow depth here in the United States, only 12.5% of it is covered, and most of it's over here in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the upper elevations of the Rockies, and over here in the northern plains. As we take a zoomed in look at the eastern United States, all the major cities, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. currently have no snow on the ground. The big picture here is up in Maine, where there's over 24 inches in some spots. And now we're going to look, fast forward to next week's pattern, as we see this ridge coming through that's going to bring above normal temperatures. As you can look now on this temperature outlook where these above normal temperatures are, even some above normal temperatures here east of Colorado, and really below normal temperatures are over here in the southwest. Now moving to the precipitation outlook, we have above normal temperatures here in the Midwest and the Mississippi River Valley, but really the big picture is over here in the western United States, where we have above normal precipitation for next week, and we hope that comes true because they're really in a rough drought right now, and they could really use some relief. As you can see here on the drought monitor, they're really suffering over here in the western United States. That's all I have here at the climate wall. Back to Hunter and Mike at the desk.
Thanks for that, Casey. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this week's episode. We will not be back next week. It's spring break here at Penn State. Try not to miss us too much, but if you're a Penn State student, have a wonderful spring break, and we'll be back the week after next with a brand new episode. In the meantime, I'm Hunter Williams.
And I'm Mike Wozniak. We'll see you in 2 weeks up in the air.